for the Planning Commission. And please, everyone, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and mute yourselves appropriately so that we're not overlapping. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we can remain standing for the statement of values, please.
Thank you, Chair. As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Okay, we can sit down now. Elizabeth, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ikezi?
Present.
Commissioner Jane?
Here.
Chair Salame?
Here.
Commissioner Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Biagini?
Here.
Commissioner Cherukuru?
Here.
Commissioner Hero?
Here.
Thank you.
Oh. Since we have everyone in attendance, we have no need to excuse, so we can skip ahead. So I guess we're prepared at this point to go ahead with our study session presentation. Let me look at my notes, because I seem to have something from the Climate Action Plan, and I don't think that's correct. So let me go look again. That's last week's.
Chair Salame, has the Declaration of Commission Procedures been read?
I don't believe so. Things are out of order.
That would be our next item.
Okay, let's move ahead to Declaration of Commission Procedures. Public hearings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the commission directs all activity during the hearings. All comments shall be addressed to the commission. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent hearing. Applicants will be allotted up to 10 minutes to present and justify proposals. Following staff presentation of the item, other speakers will be given up to 2 minutes, and the applicant is then allotted up to 5 minutes for rebuttal of comments. No additional comments will be accepted upon the close of the public hearing, although Commission reserves the right to direct questions to any speaker on any matter. Special procedures and time limits may be applied to any items as prescribed by the chair. Appeal of commission actions must be filed in writing within 7 calendar days. So further, copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available on the Planning Division, available from the Planning Division office on Friday afternoon preceding the meeting, and available online. A copy of the agenda packet is located on the table near the entrance of the council chamber for those here, or there actually. Continuances and exceptions. This part of the meeting allows for applicants, members of the public, or other interested parties to request an item be continued without hearing or withdrawn or taken out of order. Are there any requests from any applicants, the public, or the commission for a continuance or exception of any of the items on tonight's agenda?
Chair, you do have a hand raised.
I have to switch windows to see it. I see a hand among attendees. So if I don't recognize the phone number, I think if staff could allow them to talk, maybe we can hear. So whoever is 1-408-867-42515 may speak.
Chair Salim, staff's looking into how to do that. There are some,
thank you.
it looks like there's some technical difficulties.
Yeah. I see them talking permitted, but still muted.
For the person who has their hand raised, you just have to press *6 to unmute yourself. Phone number ending in 2515. Think we can go ahead and move along.
All right. If that can be cleared up, we'll come back. Planning Commission has 7 members. Whenever the full commission is not, okay, we're skipping that because we have a full group. So I guess we're up to the consent calendar at this point. Secretary Chair Curry, could you read the procedure, please? If you are, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Sorry,
Yes.
I was reading. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Consent calendar. The procedure for consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar may be enacted, approved, or adopted by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. If any member of the Planning Commission, staff, the applicant, or a member of the public wishes to comment on a consent calendar item or would like the item to be heard on the regular agenda, please make your request now. Items listed on the consent calendar today are the Planning Commission meeting minutes of May 27, 2020. I believe it's June, but
June 10th, yes.
June 10th, I apologize for the typo, of June 10th, 2020 meeting.
Okay, the procedure for...
It's the same.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's just repeat.
Well, deja vu. So is there a motion to approve the consent calendar or any objections? I see Commissioner Jane has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Priya here, second.
Okay, Commissioner Jane moved and Priya second. Go to approve. We'll wait for the official roll call.
Commissioner Ikezi?
Yes.
Commissioner Jane?
Yes.
Chair Salim?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Biagini?
Yes.
Commissioner Cherukuru?
Yes.
Commissioner Hero?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
The
So
motion
it
passes. Thank you.
unanimously. We can, since there's nothing else on the consent calendar, we can move on to public presentations. Elizabeth, are there any members of the public that would like to briefly address the commission on any item not on the agenda?
No, no members of the public.
All right. We're moving pretty quick. We'll move on to public hearing. So the 2 public items that we have tonight are the study session for Assembly Bill 992 from 2020, an amendment to the Brown Act concerning social media, and the second item is a study session on Patrick Henry Drive specific plan. So the public hearings will be conducted in the following manner. Yes, staff, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Alexander Abbey. I'm the Assistant City Attorney, and I'll just share my screen, which says this will stop others' screen sharing. So I'm going to click yes and see what happens. And are you all able to see my PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I am here to talk to you tonight about Assembly Bill 992. It's just going to be a very brief presentation. The governor signed this bill last month, and it amends the Brown Act and how it applies to social media. So platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, Snapchat, WhatsApp, and probably about 100 other apps and websites that I've never heard of. But anyway, the Brown Act now actually talks about social media a little bit. For those of you commissioners who have sat through my Brown Act training many, many times, you can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to go through all the fundamentals of the Brown Act again tonight. I'm just going to give you a very brief 3-slide refresher, then an explanation of what's changed, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions. I'm hoping I can knock this whole thing out in about 10 minutes. So here's your really brief refresher. The Ralph M. Brown Act. It's California's open meetings law, and it applies to legislative bodies. And the Planning Commission, of course, is a legislative body subject to the Brown Act. It requires that meetings of the legislative body be conducted in the open and that the public be given an opportunity to participate. And a meeting occurs anytime you have a quorum of the legislative body participating, which for the Planning Commission is 4 members. And before you can have a meeting, you have to post your agendas in 3 public locations and on the city's website. For regular meetings, you do that 72 hours in advance. For special meetings, 24 hours in advance. You cannot discuss anything not on the agenda. You can only discuss things that are agendized with a few limited exceptions. Members of the public can discuss things off the agenda. They can talk to you about anything within your subject matter jurisdiction, and they have to be given a right to participate at every regular meeting on non-agendized items and then on all agendized items as well. There are limited exceptions to the Brown Act for ceremonial and educational events, meetings of other legislative bodies, and of course, serial meetings are prohibited, as we've discussed many times. Serial meetings, if I can get this to advance. Serial meetings, there are 2 main kinds. The daisy chain, when one commissioner talks to another, who talks to another, who talks to another. Once you have 4 commissioners, you have an illegal serial meeting. There's also the hub and spoke model, where one person talks to several different people, acts as a hub, but sort of spreads information in the process, thereby creating a serial meeting where a quorum of the legislative body is involved. And as we've talked about many times, the most common form of serial meeting is email. You all have drilled into your brain, never press reply all, because that's the easiest way to create a serial meeting. So what this new bill does is simply says that social media is subject to the Brown Act, and that's really not a surprise. I mean, if you can violate the Brown Act by communicating with the majority of members via email, then of course you can do that over social media. Social media is a fertile ground for having a serial meeting. And AB 992 expressly bars officials from using social media to discuss city business. It says that a majority of the members of the legislative body must not use an internet-based social media platform to discuss amongst themselves business that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. And again, that's just no surprise. I mean, you can't use email to violate the Brown Act. So of course you can't do it with social media either. The legislature just finally amended the act to expressly recognize it. So that's no surprise. The next part's a little more interesting. The legislature has said that it is okay to use social media to post things individually. You can't do it with a majority of the members, but you can do it by yourself. So you can provide information to the public you can solicit information from the public, and you can answer questions. And all of these things can be about things within your subject matter jurisdiction. So, if you want to post on your blog about a specific plan that you'll be considering, have at it. You want to ask the public what they think should be included in our next housing element, you can tweet about it. If you want to provide information to the public about a proposed rezoning, you can post pictures of the project site on your Instagram. AB 992 now expressly authorizes you to post on social media, and it's not a Brown Act violation, even if 6 other planning commissioners read your post, if you post on a platform that's open to the public. And that means free. So Facebook, something like that, not a private club that you've paid to get into. You're not going to violate the Brown Act if you individually post something. Asterisk, though, this is all about the Brown Act. You still have the potential to violate someone's due process rights. So just a quick refresher about due process. The Constitution gives project applicants and city residents the right to due process of law before you do something that adversely affects their property rights. And we've talked about that. Due process means reasonable notice, reasonable opportunity to be heard, and a hearing before an impartial decision maker. And that's the risk. If you post about something on social media, it might be evidence that you're not impartial, that you've made up your mind before the close of a public hearing. And due process applies to quasi-judicial acts. Those are the decisions where you're applying an existing set of laws to a set of facts. You're not making new laws. So I've got the laundry list there: variances, CUPs, subdivision maps, architectural appeals. Remember, for quasi-judicial decisions, people are entitled to an impartial decision maker. So if you indicate anything about how you're likely to vote before an item has gone through a public hearing, you might be demonstrating you're not impartial. Legislative acts, when you're creating a new law, passing an ordinance, adopting a general plan amendment, adopting a specific plan, rezoning a property, that's fine. You can and feel free to post about those things on social media. But if you post about a quasi-judicial decision that's going to come before the Planning Commission, you may be posting yourself out of participation. Okay, and paren, the Brown Act applies to social media. A majority of you can't communicate over Snapchat, not a surprise. The Brown Act allows you to post individually on social media, so you can blog about legislative issues, not a big surprise. Here's what is surprising and what is completely new. AB 992 imposes a new prohibition on responding to the social media posts of other members of the legislative body. You're allowed to individually post on social media, but you're prohibited from responding to those posts. So that's actually a significant change. I mean, remember earlier, I told you the bill starts out by saying a majority of the legislative body can't use social media. But later in the bill, we get this provision. And this says that if just one of you posts on social media, and then just one other of you responds to that post, it's a Brown Act violation. So that's quite an expansion. Suddenly we have the potential for a Brown Act violation where only 2 of you are involved. So more specifically, if one commissioner posts on Reddit, another commissioner cannot write a comment about that post. If someone tweets about an issue in Santa Clara, you should not retweet what they wrote. If Commissioner X puts up a picture of traffic congestion on a Santa Clara street on their Instagram, with the caption, we need more TDM measures, Commissioner Y should not put up an unhappy face emoji. And believe it or not, the legislature expressly called that out. They said, use of digital icons that express reactions to communications are prohibited. And so finally, one obvious reaction to a communication is liking something. If you're on Facebook, don't like or dislike each other's posts, because now it will be a Brown Act violation if it concerns the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Someone wants to post photos of their new kitten, you know, like away. If they want to talk about their grandchildren, go ahead, like all you want. But the second it gets into talking about the subject matter of the city, you cannot respond directly to any of those posts. This law goes into effect January 1st. I wanted you to learn about it before January so that you could get into the habit of not liking anymore. Bill does contain a sunset clause. It expires in 5 years. So I'm not really sure why the legislature added that, because I don't think we'll be done with social media in 5 years. I'm sorry to say. But I can only guess that maybe they wanted to prompt the legislature of 2025 to do something to update this in 5 years. And that's about it. You cannot use social media with a majority of the members of the legislative body. You can post individually, but you can't like or respond to each other's posts. And I'm available for questions.
Well, Commissioner Jane had his hand snapped up fastest, so we'll start with him.
He likes playing Stump the Attorney, I know.
It won't be hard. Is texting considered social media?
Well, no. I mean, texting is just like having a phone call. They define social media as something that is open to the public. So something where anybody can look at it for free. Now, you can still violate the Brown Act by texting. That's easy. You know, just text 3 of your fellow commissioners, and that's a Brown Act violation. But this law doesn't apply specifically to texting, this new bill.
But it does apply to WhatsApp, which is effectively like texting.
I will confess I don't use WhatsApp.
Okay. All right.
So if it is identical to texting, then, I mean, I guess there wouldn't be a situation where you post something on WhatsApp and it would be available to the entire public. This law talks about you can post on these sites that are available to all of the public, and then you're prohibited from responding. If it's 3 planning commissioners having a WhatsApp conversation, you don't have a problem. If it's 4 planning commissioners doing it, whether it's social media or not, it's a Brown Act violation.
Okay, and what is the cure?
Learn not to like.
No, like let's say I accidentally do it. What do I have to do? Do I have to retract it or delete it, or what am I supposed to do?
Well, once you post something on the internet, it's forever.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that retracting it will do any good. The legislature did not. Well, I mean, the legislature did not feel that they needed to prescribe any remedies for this. They they simply said it would be a Brown Act violation. And the only thing you can do when you have a Brown Act violation is cure the violation by then taking up whatever the matter is at a properly noticed public meeting. So, I mean, the ordinary way to cure a Brown Act violation is simply agendize it for the next meeting. But if it's a topic that's like not even coming up for conversation at Planning Commission for another 6 months, I don't know. I guess the fear here is that by reacting, you're creating this sort of collective concurrence between planning commissioners, and people will see that you've created this concurrence. So if you accidentally click like, it probably makes sense to delete it because, you know, the fewer, I don't know. I'm just talking off the top of my head.
Well, you can unlike right away, but you can't, you know, erase comments or things without extra steps. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I would remove the like, but we still may need to cure the violation somehow.
Okay, thank you, Xander.
Okay, well, I was next. So how does this apply to comments and posts or related to a campaign activity of fellow commissioners?
Well,
Stump the lawyer.
So can you give me an example? Like,
Say a commissioner that happens to be running for office posts a comment about the city needing more public transit. And now if I come in and say, well, I like that idea, I'm effectively risking that if any public transit issue comes up, I've already pre-stated my preference for that topic, and therefore, being a Brown Act violation, immediately have to recuse myself. So I think that's a common situation, that when people are in an election cycle and they are doing campaign posting, other commissioners, other elected officials that may be running opposed to them will come in and comment and create a conversation around it. And that seems to me to be the danger point right now, is if those conversations are directly related to activities that the commission handles itself directly. Using the word directly enough.
I think you've identified a flaw in the litigation, in the legislation. Because yeah, if you posted, well, if you went to one of your fellow commissioners' campaign website and they posted something about, parking, and you posted a response, then I think that would violate AB 992. You're posting a direct response to something they wrote. You're welcome to endorse someone, but posting about a topic that is within your subject matter jurisdiction is a problem if it's a response, a direct response to somebody else's post. What you can do is post it on your own Facebook page. If candidate X says something about parking, you can post your own opinions about parking on Lance Salam's Facebook page.
Yeah. Doesn't that risk being considered a retweet or a restatement of another commissioner's personal preference?
You can easily get into a gray zone here. So you would not want to block copy what they said and repeat it word for word, I would think.
Or reference it.
Absolutely wouldn't want to say, I agree with what Commissioner X said about parking. But the fact is, you all almost always vote unanimously. I mean, not always, but you're going to have a lot of the same ideas. So there's no sin in you talking about parking in a way that one of your fellow commissioners also talks about it, because that's to be expected. So just don't directly post on their social media page. That's the key, the direct response, even if it's in connection with an election, if it's something within your subject matter jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, it feels very much like it's stifling the ability to support each other's viewpoints. But I understand the purpose of it. I mean, you obviously wouldn't want to use social media as a pre-voting platform for deciding something before you've heard it officially. Okay, so we have Commissioner Kizzy was next.
Thank you, Chair. So when I started listening to the council, I somehow assumed that this pertains to items that agendized for the next meeting. But what I'm hearing is that this is a really broad restriction. Like if it has anything to do with planning commission
Yes.
at any time, then like if it has anything to do with like alcohol permit or land use, parking, development, anything, then I cannot communicate. Well, I have to follow all the rules that you just described.
Yes. It's not just what's agendized. It's anything in your subject matter jurisdiction.
Wow.
Allows you to post all you want on your own Facebook page, Instagram feed, whatever you want to call it. You just can't respond directly to each other. So, I mean, it's somewhat expansive if you think about it, because you can post something on Facebook about upcoming planning commission items, I mean, hopefully legislative items, and all the other 6 commissioners could read that. You can't do that via email. but you cannot go on their Facebook post and respond to it. Even if it's something that's just, hypothetically going to come before the Planning Commission in the future, and there's no immediate agenda item. If it's within your subject matter jurisdiction, you can't respond to each other. And yeah, I understand that is a significant change. That is somewhat stifling.
Okay, so I don't want to take up too much time, but for example, after the planning commission decided to support the updated related plans, I posted the pictures, and then my other commissioner said, oh, liked the my post, but now that's a violation.
On January 1st, it'll be a violation.
Wow. Okay. So it doesn't matter when, before or after something happens. If it has anything to do with planning, then no reactions. Understand. Thank you.
That is correct.
Okay, I think Commissioner Biagini was next, and then we'll go Commissioner Cherukuro.
Xander, I'm guessing, sounds like, that with respect to this election cycle where we're all kind of thinking, oh, but if I just hit a like or whatever, it doesn't apply to this election cycle because we're not January 1st, right?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. So everybody can breathe a sigh of relief on that one.
Yes.
But here's another thing that it just hit me. So there's all this interest with, I'm going to use specific current examples, okay? Reclaiming our downtown. There's a task force. Does this mean now that even if you're on it's nothing before us now, but I'm assuming the potential is it would be that after January 1st, well, practice starting now, but don't like or happy emoji or anything on a Reclaim Our Downtown Facebook page or on a downtown task force or anything, because the potential is there that someday, somehow it could come before the Planning Commission?
Well, Reclaiming Our Downtown is a nonprofit board.
Right.
The task force is a legislative body. So I've actually already talked to the Downtown Task Force. You're the second ones to hear about this, not the first. I told them the same thing. Don't like each other's posts on Facebook. If you happen to be reading something posted by a DCTF member and it is about downtown, which may come before the Planning Commission, yeah, don't. But I mean, again, you're not completely silenced here. You can go on to your own Facebook page, which your constituents read, and say what you think about the downtown. And it can even be similar to what the DCTF member wrote.
But here's my concern.
Like their posts.
You have DCTF task force folks that are also on Reclaiming Our Downtown. I guess
I'm not a nonprofit though. Yeah. I mean,
so somebody's on the task force happens to post on Reclaiming Our Downtown Facebook page. Do you get in trouble? I mean, it sounds to me like just don't like anything or don't comment on anything because of the crossover between the task force and that Facebook page.
They can post, they just can't respond to each other.
But it's a planning commissioner is my concern. I understand they can't, but wouldn't that be revealing how I might, or, how I might look at something if, somebody posts on Reclaim Our Downtown, like, oh, I want to put up a 12-story residential. And then I say, gee, I don't, put an unhappy face on that, or happy face, doesn't matter. Isn't that revealing how I might vote and therefore not a good idea?
Well, just keep in mind, happy faces, unhappy faces are never going to be a good idea from here on out. You simply can't respond. But if we're talking about you just posting on your own Facebook page,
right?
This law allows you to do that, and it's not a problem for legislative acts. So if we're talking about the downtown specific plan, you can post all you want because it's a legislative act. The only time you're going to end up recusing yourself is if you're posting about quasi-judicial acts. So somebody's coming to Planning Commission with an architectural appeal, and you put on your Facebook page, wow, this looks like a fabulous design. I can't wait to vote on this. You just yourself.
Yeah, got it.
The specific plan, I can't wait to vote on this because, you know, I'm excited to revitalize our downtown, and I think options 1, 2, and 3 are going to look great. That's fine. But it's not always, if you're not sure if it's legislative or quasi-judicial,
Yeah.
before you post.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that leaves Commissioner Chirukuru.
Okay, this raises a lot of flags, but is there a time limit in the actual act, or is that into perpetuity? Like, can, you know, TDM measures, sustainability, those are all overarching. There's no potential action anytime soon.
Right.
How is there an actual time on the post, or how does it work?
Well, remember, you can post all you want. You just
I know, in liking or
respond. So there's no temporal element to this. It doesn't say it's okay to like something if it was more than 12 months ago, you know, or it's okay to respond to something if it was an issue you took up 5 years ago. There's nothing like that. It simply says if it's a social media site open to the public and one of your fellow commissioners has already posted, don't respond. That's simple. No temporal restrictions on it.
Got it. Okay. All right. I just wanted to, so this is not going into actual other metrics, whether it's the Roberts Rules of Procedures and all of that on how Zoom meetings are conducted.
No, it doesn't affect any of how meetings are conducted.
And how participants, okay. Those were my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I still see 2 hands raised. Is there any more comments from Commissioner Kezi or?
Just one quick question. Thank you, Chair. So, like let's say that I have an item that I care a lot about coming up on the Planning Commission meeting. Can I post that? Okay, this is on the agenda item. If you care about this, come to the Planning Commission meeting. Is that okay to do?
Yes.
Okay, but other commissioners cannot comment on my post.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
But as I understand it, if any other commissioner were to say, yes, I think it's a very important thing to vote yes on, immediately that's a Brown Act.
Yes.
Because you posted
even
it.
less than that. They just post a
just
smiley.
liking it.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. It's pretty easy at the fundamental level. It's extraordinarily restrictive. I have never seen a law like this that curtails comment and conversation before. It's amazing. Okay, so I think that was no other questions. Did you have any last comments?
I don't. I guess we should check if there are any members of the public. Oh, looks like there is a member of the public that wants to ask a question.
Okay. Elizabeth, can you enable them?
No, we do not have any members of the public who want to speak on this.
I see Jeff Houston.
We do have one in Zoom.
Hi, this is Jeff. It seems really simple that this is very similar to the serial provision of the Brown Act, whereas if the Planning Commission continues the discussion on the subject, that's disallowed when it's not in a public meeting.
It is very similar to a serial meeting, yes. The difference is, with a serial meeting, you always needed 4 people involved before it was a Brown Act violation. Now we have just 2 people needed, and you can violate the Brown Act, which is brand new, and definitely a lot of potential for inadvertent mistakes.
Yeah, and it feels very unbalanced in the sense that there could be 7 Facebook pages, one for each commissioner, and one commissioner posts, I think we need more public transit. Another commissioner posts, I think we need more public transit down the line. Suddenly, all 7 have posted it, but they haven't commented on the fact that the other 6 have all said the same thing. Suddenly, it feels like it's just circumventing the whole process. Okay.
Well, yeah.
I know. I always look for the edge cases. I have a lot of QA in my work history. Okay, so I think if that's the last.
I I just
Oh.
have one comment through chair.
Okay.
I just see a lot of potential of future lawsuits. I can just see a whole new genre of lawsuits coming just based on this.
Yeah. We're in a very litigious society, and it just feels like this is a new opening to
Yep.
fire lawyers at anything someone disagrees with.
I would just remind the Planning Commission that violations of the Brown Act are only criminal acts if they're done intentionally. So, I know you will try your best. To the extent accidents happen, I expect they will be unintentional. So I don't think you need to worry about the district attorney bringing an action against you for accidentally liking something one time.
But let me ask the obvious leading question. Can you be forced to recuse because you've posted something that could be interpreted as a positive or negative reaction to something which would logically make your vote suspect?
Well, remember, that is a due process issue. That's actually not in the Brown Act. The recusal thing is all about due process. So do I think that if you like something someone posted about a potential project that's coming before you that's a quasi-judicial decision, could that show bias? Sure. But none of you should be posting about quasi-judicial decisions to start with. So yeah, you shouldn't like each other's posts, but you shouldn't be posting about quasi-judicial decisions to start with because you're going to end up having to recuse yourself. Both of you will have to recuse them, the poster and the liker.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing as the outcome. Is a dodgeball event. You're both out. Commissioner Casey again.
Thank you. So how will like a like on the Facebook, could that impact the decision? But let's say that I like some another fellow commissioner makes a comment about maybe downtown. Downtown, and I just say like, which is bad. I can't do that anymore. But let's say I did it. And then downtown comes up in front of the Planning Commission. Could the decision be reversed, or could somebody dig up my like in way back some like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago and say, see, this commissioner liked something, so I don't like the decision. I'm gonna sue to reverse the decision. Can things like that happen?
Well, I seriously doubt it with just a like.
Yeah.
Brown Act cases can result in reversal of actions where they flip a decision. If there's a Brown Act violation and somehow it changes the outcome of a decision, then the decision can be overturned by a court. So,
right.
There have been like cases where there was not adequate noticing given. So like somebody didn't get notice of a hearing that they're required to get, agendas under the Brown Act. Because of that, they didn't show up at the hearing. They didn't provide this one piece of information that was necessary. The decision went the wrong way. It got overturned in court. But there's a doctrine of substantial compliance with the Brown Act. So if you sent out agendas to everybody except that one person, and 499 other people showed up and all said the same thing that one person was going to say, then it's not a harmful error. If we have substantial compliance, a simple error on the fringes will not result in a decision being overturned. If you accidentally like something, I would just disclose it at the next meeting. That way, you've basically cured the defect. I would just say, I expressed a like for this, but for legislative acts, it's not going to cause you to recuse yourself. If you like something about the downtown specific plan, it's a legislative act. So maybe you're super pro downtown specific plan, or maybe you're super anti. It doesn't matter. You can have opinions about those things. So you're not violating anyone's due process by liking. You'll still be able to participate. You just might get in trouble with the district attorney if you do it. So,
geez. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay.
Sure.
Mute, unmute. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing on this item?
As a
So moved.
session, you probably don't actually need to do it. But
It was in my notes, so I figured I'd follow the
go
notes.
go through it then.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, because we had a public speaker, so I figured.
Good point.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Could the motioners please state their names again, since I missed it?
Biagini seconded.
Casey. Thank you.
Biagini did the second.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Casey did the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Casey,
Yes.
Commissioner Jane,
Yes.
Chair Salame,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Biagini,
Yes.
Commissioner Charakuru,
Yes.
Commissioner Hero.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that was unanimous, so we can close that item and then move on to the next item, which is study session on Patrick Henry Drive. I assume staff has a presentation prepared.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Give me one moment. So thank you, Chair. This is Rebecca Bustos. I'm the Planning Project Manager overseeing preparation of the Patrick Henry Drive specific plan. Also on the line, we have our consultant with MIG. Her name is Ellie, and she'll be assisting with me with Q&A. So first, I just want to orient you to the plan area. So this is north of 101. It's an approximately 74-acre plan area just north of Mission College. Also borders Sunnyvale to the west. The proposed Kylie development is to the north, and then Great America Boulevard is to the east. So here is some project background. So the project, or the specific plan, was initially began in July of 2017 when council approved the RFP. Consultant selection occurred in August 2018, and the contract was approved with MIG. Since the contract was approved, staff along with MIG have been working on the plan preparation. We've done significant stakeholder engagement, and we've also commenced work on the EIR. The specific plan will identify new general plan land use designations and associated policies for urban design, amenities, infrastructure, and other land use elements to support the redevelopment of the Patrick Henry Drive area from low-intensity office and industrial park use into high-density mixed-use neighborhoods. The Patrick Henry Drive specific plan area is designated as a Phase 3 future focus area for high-density residential development in the city's 2010 to 2035 general plan. So here's a closer view of the plan area. So you can see Old Ironsides, Patrick Henry in a U-shaped configuration, and then Great America Parkway on the east side. So here is a map to give you a sense of the stakeholders that are involved in the plan preparation. So we have a total of 13 or 12, I should say, property owners involved in the preparation of the plan area. Digital Realty, which you can see is kind of grayed out, that is two existing data centers. They don't have any intent on redeveloping at this time, but are participating in the plan process and providing comments along the way. So as part of the specific plan, we are looking at two potential scenarios. Primarily, uses will be residential. So you can see here, scenario A is fully residential with 12,000 up to 12,000 units, while scenario B considers one of the properties, property 9 in the previous slide, with an alternative option for 785,000 square feet of office, thereby reducing the number of residential units. And I'll just go back to the previous slide to show you which property. So this is property 9 owned by Perlman Jaime, and that is the one we're studying as a potential office scenario. In either scenario, we are looking at up to 310,000 square feet of non-residential uses. So that's inclusive of retail, public facilities, and potential for a school. One of the other properties owned by ZNL are requesting a density of up to 415 dwelling units to the acre. We are considering accommodating that via an exchange for some sort of community benefit, such as a library or other community asset. So here's a look at the draft conceptual land use plan. This identifies the locations of the proposed residential and flex land use designations within the specific plan area. You can also see the proposed locations for public facilities such as parks, which is identified in green, a community room and space for the public library, which is identified in blue. Ground floor retail is identified in the red areas, and then that flex designation is here on the east side of the plan with the opportunity for office as a potential. So in regards to parkland and open space, we are following the precedent established with the adopted Tasmanie specific plan, which identified 22% of the specific plan area as parkland and open space. So this green area constitutes approximately 8.25 acres of public parkland. In addition to that, to make up the 22%, there would also be publicly accessible, privately maintained open space. The proposed parkland includes a central park spine running north-south through the center of the new neighborhood and two smaller parks located at opposite edges of the plan area, adjacent to Calabasas Creek and then Great America Parkway. It should be noted that the park on Great America Parkway as part of the flex designation would only be applicable should this property be developed with residential. In regards to circulation, the proposed land use plan makes use of the existing street right-of-ways and identifies new vehicular and multimodal circulation roads throughout the plan area to break up the existing superblocks and to create a grid street system that will support intensified land use. Roads shown as living streets are intended to be low-speed shared facilities where pedestrians, bicycles, and cars all have an equal ability to use the right-of-way. A new greenway is proposed along Patrick Henry Drive to utilize an existing gas line easement that does not allow structures. The possibility for a vehicular connection to Mission College Boulevard is being reviewed as part of the traffic analysis. So here's a closer look at the different residential designations within the plan area. So we have very high density residential, urban village residential, urban center residential, and then the high density flex with the option for office. So here are what those different designations equate to in terms of dwelling units to the acre. So very high density at the low end would be 51 DU to the acre. And then on the high end in the urban center residential, we're up to 250 dwelling units to the acre. The plan also includes those new roadway connections and then other non-residential uses of up to 310,000 square feet. So these densities correspond to building heights ranging from 5 stories at the lowest allowed density to 25 stories at the highest with the urban center residential. Projects must individually comply with the FAA height restrictions as well. So here is a look at the project and EIR schedule. So currently we are working on the traffic impact analysis. In addition, as I stated before, the draft plan and the draft EIR are also in process. We are planning to hold our second community workshop in January 2021 with public review of the draft EIR and the draft specific plan in March 2021. Following that, this would go before Planning Commission in approximately June or July of 2021 with final EIR and specific plan approval by Council in August 2021. I do want to touch on the post-agenda meeting material that was received, which is a letter from the school district. As I mentioned previously, the EIR and the plan itself are studying a school of up to 110,000 square feet. It has not been our practice to identify a site on the land use plan unless the school owns the property. However, we're definitely not precluding a development of a school, and they will have their environmental clearance as part of the plan EIR. So that concludes the staff presentation. As I stated, we have our consultant available for questions as well.
Okay, I see quite a few hands up already. Commissioner Jane?
I didn't have my hand up first, but that's fine. I can go.
I can't tell because they don't sort in order. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm happy to go, I guess. First off, 12,000 units. How many people is that?
So we based it on 2.24 units. I'm sorry, 2.24 people per unit. So that would equate to approximately 27,000 people.
Okay. So if I take 27,000 people and I multiply by our Mitigation Fee Act of 2.53, I get something like 60 acres. And the whole project is only 75 acres. So where is all that parkland? Where are those people going to recreate?
So our intent is to follow the kind of the precedent established by Tasman East. So we're looking at 22% of the overall plan area being parkland. In these higher density developments, it's very challenging, as you're noting, to meet the requirements of the PDO. In addition, all of the projects would be responsible for paying in lieu fees if they are not going to be developing parkland.
Well, I still see a problem there because even if they pay in lieu fees, there's going to be no place to build these parks. We're just going to be piling up in lieu fees and not building parks for people. And I have expressed my concern about Tasman East, that we're adding more development there when we don't even have enough park there. So, and I guess my final question, well, I have two more questions. Okay, I get three. So my last question is, if 250 units per acre is 25 stories, what is 415 units per acre? How tall is that building going to be?
I think it depends on various different configurations, but ironically, I was looking up a project in downtown San Jose that had overseen, and that was about a 250 DU to the acre project, and it was proposed at 23 stories in height.
So how are we going to get 400 units per acre?
through the design that developer in particular is interested in doing very small units and that including micro units. So it's essentially through the unit size. And I think there's ongoing conversations going on with that developer, and they may actually be scaling back some of their estimates, but that's the assumption that we've been working with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now I see Commissioner Kezi and Commissioner Chair Kuru, so I guess Commissioner Kezi.
Thank you, Chair. Where is this site in relation to Kylie project?
So this is just south of Kylie. I'll go back to the.
Okay.
So
That big empty space.
Yeah, essentially this is Kylie, and this is right under this red line is that SFPUC right of way that kind of separates the two.
So what happened to Kylie project? Is it still going?
From my understanding, they're in the process of redoing the plans, given the guidance they received from the FAA that they have to reduce the height and density. So that process is ongoing, but they haven't resubmitted to the city.
Okay. So if we it's more on Commissioner Jane's question, but if we go with like 415 units, it sounds like it's going to be more than maybe 40 stories high. Kylie, I understand, is thinking of something similar. I don't know what the latest plan is with the latest FAA requirements, but do we have to worry about earthquake when you build something that tall?
Actually, the engineers have to worry about it.
Yeah, they would be subject to the California Building Code in terms of earthquake preparedness.
So we will they do expect to be able to meet all the codes?
Could you repeat that?
Oh, do they expect to be able to meet all the codes at that height?
Yeah, proposed these buildings aren't atypical from what we see, probably certainly taller than we traditionally see here in Santa Clara, but definitely not atypical from what, gets constructed throughout the Bay Area. So this should be something that, will not be unique for many construction contractors that are available in the South Bay.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, can you talk a little bit about what public transportation is coming into this? Because you mentioned a new roadway, or is there any public transportation coming in here?
There is no. Do you want me to start, Rebecca?
Yeah, there's currently no public transportation within the plan area. VTA does have lines kind of outside of this area, of course, along with the light rail along Tasman. The new roadways are just these areas in the land use plan that kind of break up these super blocks.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
Chair Kuru.
Thank you, Chair. I may not be familiar with the 2017 plan, so I have a couple of background questions. Is this land owned by the city today?
No, this is owned by several private ownerships. So on this map, you can see there's 12 different owners within the plan area.
So MIG is basically coordinating between all the property owners and coming up with a joint development agreement with all of these parties with the city?
So MIG is contracted with the city to help us in preparation of the plan.
Just for the land use. I may not be understanding. Are all the 12 property owners basically coming together for this entire development with profits sharing? I'm trying to understand how our city is engaged with with MIG, who's actually working with all these property owners, and why?
No, so all the properties would be developed individually unless the property owners chose to join together. But at this point, we're identifying specific land uses for each of the individual properties. But we are working with them as a group of stakeholders to have the larger conversations around the circulation, the parkland, et cetera.
Yeah, okay. I'm not used. Usually we have large land owners, and there's a land use plan. But I'll let the logistics work out. I did have a
Oh,
caution
Commissioner
and a
Chiricuru, this is Rena Brio. I just want to say that this is very analogous to what we did for Tasman East, where we had several individual property owners, some who were interested in developing right away, others not interested necessarily in redevelopment at all, or in a much longer time frame. And we worked with them as individual property owners, but we have, frequent meetings with all of them in order to kind of talk about what their interests are for development, but obviously balancing the plan with what the city's interest is, in recognizing that this is a good opportunity for the city for a new neighborhood, and we want to make sure that from an urban design perspective and an architectural perspective, all of that comes together with this plan. So a part of this plan is land use, but there's another component of this plan similar to Tasman East where we will develop design guidelines and really sort of the look and feel of this neighborhood. But right now, it's still, I know we've been talking about this for a little while, but it's still in the relatively, preliminary stages of the plan development where we have not advanced those particular aspects yet.
And because it's private land, my concern is, have they all bought into it? What if any of them chooses to bail out? In essence, you're trying to get a land use for parkland. For instance, there's 8 acres that we are saying should be parkland, and of course it's a land use plan. But have the owners the ability to say, no, I don't want to give this?
Yeah, we do meet with them. As you can imagine, it's difficult for people to raise their hands and say they want to park on their site. So we are working to create a complete neighborhood. So where it makes sense to put park there based on a ultimate plan for the neighborhood, recognizing that we have to work with these property owners so it doesn't create some undue burden on one property versus another. So just the placement of these parks have been very strategic to, sort of spread, if you will, the burden for these property owners and where the parks land, but at the same time be something that as it gets built out will make sense and will be something integrated in the community. But yes, all these individuals who are on the stakeholder map are coordinated with on a regular basis. As Rebecca mentioned, Digital Realty has not expressed interest in developing in the near-term future, but they still do participate.
Got it.
And to add on to that, as part of the plan preparation, the general plan and zonings for each of the properties will be changing. So in the event that when and if the property owners are ready to redevelop, it would have to be consistent with the new designation. So there's really no opting out in that sense.
So what we are basically doing with the specific plan is setting the maximum potential on the site. So I'm going back to Commissioner Jane's question on the opportunity for housing and the number of units. It's just a max. Are we saying it has to be, or can it be less?
So we are, we do have a land use plan which shows what is proposed from a maximum standpoint. There are ranges though, so I think we do talk, maybe you can pull that up, Rebecca, thank you. We do talk about minimum densities because I think the city recognizes that this is a significant opportunity for us to build housing, and we don't want to see us miss that opportunity with low density development. So we have, bottom floors and, maximum densities that are proposed here. This has been coordinated very closely with the proposed stakeholders in what they're interested in developing on their site. And I think that's it. I think I've answered the question.
Okay. Thank you, Reina. My last question is, how close is this to the Guadalupe Parkway? Are we anywhere close to the water table there? And I'm stating this with the concern, knowing that Tasman has, relatively high water table. So the higher you go in stories, you're going to look at a foundation that's going into more liquefaction zones. So I want to be, of course, it's the building code and requirements, but I want to, throw the caution there that your high-rise buildings, if you're hedging your bets on density based on high-rise, you want to make sure that the land use supports it, the land supports it.
Thank you, Commissioner Chirukuru. We're actually investigating all the feasibility of that now from, actually looking at all the geology, soils, analysis. So that's not something I have information on right now, but we will be able to share that with you soon.
Yeah, because we can't hedge our bets saying that this could be high-rise and will support, the n number of units that are proposed without understanding the land being able to support it. So just caution that we don't want to come up with, I understand from an EIR standpoint, you're looking at what is the maximum that the land can have, but I don't think that the land really can support that many units, knowing its proximity to water tables and, potential flooding related issues. I yield, Chair. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. My questions are around the presentation. Is it possible for us to see a layout of these various sections with a mass on them, like a 3D view, so we can get an idea of where the masses are and heights? Because we were bantering around 23 stories, 40 stories, a lot of different things. I understand the developers aren't completely finished yet, but if we could get an idea of how that property is going to lay out between the developers, that would help us understand what it would look like from street view and things like that.
Yeah, we can certainly work with MIG and provide that when we're come before you next.
That would be helpful.
I also do want to correct the record a little. I don't think anyone's proposing 40 stories here, so I just, before sometimes things like that get picked up.
That can get out of hand.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that comment just having a life of its own.
Exactly why I'm asking, because without anything to visualize, it's easy to imagine almost anything.
Sure.
I really hope we don't see something of, out of scale like that. And so if you could just put together a little 3D massing, that would be very helpful. Great. Thank you. I don't have any other questions from what I've seen. I think the issue is, how are we going to hear back from the school district if they are able to acquire some property to put the school there? I'm sorry, is that going to be part of the next presentation as well?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, are we going to see how the school district is able to integrate their needs into this plan so that they aren't left without a school for 26,000 residents?
Yeah, so they would, firstly have to acquire the site, a site within the plan area, but the good thing is that they would have their environmental clearance already and could move forward rather quickly once they acquired a site based on that.
Okay. And one of the other comments that I saw in the letter that came in was a concern over easy accessibility via ground access, they called it walk and roll to school. Will that be covered in the plan as well?
I think we would be happy to work closely with the school district if a specific site was selected, and obviously selecting a site means the concurrence of the property owner who owns the property. So the city, if there were specifics like that were available, we would certainly include all of that in the land use planning. If that's not something available at the time of the specific plan and gets implemented down the road, then we would certainly do that at that point. There's also an opportunity, there's near-term developers, there are longer-term developers. So there's potential here for putting a school. That's why we're analyzing it within the EIR. But I think there's a lot more legwork that needs to be done to actually to find a school site, to make that a practical reality from a land purchasing standpoint.
Right, that makes sense. Plus, not to put words in Commissioner Jane's mouth, but I assume he's going to probably ask also about accessibility for traffic, and because if you're going to get a school in the property, you're going to need drop off, pick up. It's going to create quite an interesting traffic impact. But let's go ahead and switch over to Commissioner Jane.
I'm trying to figure out how this density compares with, say, downtown San Jose or downtown Sunnyvale. Do you have any sense of what the densities are in those areas?
I think I can speak most closely with downtown San Jose because I've worked on projects there. I think there's some great variety of projects. More recently, some is getting as high as 23, 24 stories. It has always been limited because of the airport flight path, limiting the height of high rises, so you won't see skyscrapers, that is, in downtown San Jose because of that. However, I know that the city of San Jose is working to try to modify those kind of policies. They may have already to allow for some greater heights. It is an area where, there's BART, Caltrain, a lot of proximity to transit. So I would say, it could be anywhere from 100 DU to the acre to maybe 450 DU to the acre, depending on the site. And there is a variety of different types of housing. But more recently, you'll see projects that are on the much higher end, like 400, 450 DU to the acre.
I think what I'm asking is 12,000 units on 75 acres. How does that compare to San Jose or Sunnyvale?
Yeah. So this is a very unique situation because, many other communities have built out neighborhoods and they're really developing parcel by parcel, whereas here we have a larger area. I would say that I have not seen any high rises in San Jose build parks as well, because that's a very, very challenging proposition. So here we're actually trying to build a neighborhood, an integrated neighborhood with parks and amenities that would support the residents that we are anticipating coming.
Okay, and then how is the 310,000 square feet of retail, I guess, or non-residential uses, how does that compare to, 27,000 people is like a small city. So is that enough to make sure that almost all their services are local, that they won't have to be driving somewhere else to go to their dry cleaner and their restaurants and their dentist and so on? I guess that'll come into the EIR when you guys do the EIR analysis, but I just want to make sure that there is enough services so that we don't add traffic burdens.
Yes, and we share that concern. The balance here in determining the correct amount of retail or the amount of retail that would be viable, we considered the other retail amenities in this north of 101 area. So with Related coming in, fairly soon, kind of in line with this project, we felt that the 310,000 was viable, though we're not precluding individual property owners to propose more than that.
Okay. All right. Then my last question is related to the school. And I read this letter from the school district, and it just seemed like the quote, SCUSD was assured a school would be included in the revised plan, and it seemed to have gotten dropped. I'm just curious about how that happened.
Yeah, we've actually followed up with the school district on that because that was certainly not our understanding that we would be identifying a specific site. We haven't gotten a specific answer to our response to that, but we recognize now that that is their goal, and we want to help them to the extent that we can, recognizing that there are certain limitations there. But we've always said, and we are on the path to analyzing the capacity of a school within the environmental impact report, which will be very beneficial. I think it was Chair Salim who had said, yeah, I mean, all the school pickup, drop off, those kind of traffic analyses are being considered with the EIR because that has become an assumption of what we are studying. We know that we're planning for a school in this area so that when a specific site is chosen, only really operational issues of the specific site would have to be addressed, but the rest of the sort of traffic impacts would already be assumed with this particular environmental analysis. But I actually think someone from the school district is listening in, and they may provide some public comment as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I think we lost Lance. Chair?
No, you just have, the mute appears to go on when I'm not paying attention. Commissioner Becker, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Jane really kind of covered it, a lot of it, but he did mention about the schools, which is something I really wanted to tackle. I know we don't have a lot of power over that, but that's really concerning that 27,000 people or residents could be in this area. I mean, where are these kids going to go to school? Where are we going to have land for schools? I know it's not in our purview, but that concerns me, especially from what I've heard parents telling me about this project. Especially as many residents are going to be there. I used to work actually right along on the Great America, right there where those buildings are between, I think it's Old Ironsides and Great America. And I always thought, it'd be a great place for, some urban villages in this location here back in 2007. Well, the thing is back in 2007, before we got the stadium built, there was that area right there, that corridor on Great America Parkway was a really traffic nightmare to get home. And I remember when the stadium was coming, everyone talked about, oh, the traffic, and we still hear complaints. I mean, we get, mudslinging because of this stadium still. And now we're going to go put 27,000 27,000 people into this area is kind of scary because, I mean, hearing from the community, they're worried about quality of life. And I'm just wondering if this will increase the quality of life. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against any development whatsoever in this general area, but it concerns me how dense we are making this. I mean, this is like what Commissioner Jane said, and I think many of you others have said the same thing. This is like a little mini city in itself. This is, going to be a major hub, and I just want to make sure we're really well prepared, especially, considering the density. That concerns a lot of residents from what I've heard. And I'm not being anti-building. I'm pro, getting development going. I'd love to see the housing, especially affordable housing. I think affordable housing should be a major factor in here. But overall, the heights is what I think concerns a lot of the residents, especially in the north side. But I'd like to hear more if anyone else has any other concerns.
Okay, thank you. I'll hear from Commissioner Biagini and then Commissioner Chair Cruz, and we should open it to public. I have one waiting.
Okay, this is Commissioner Biagini. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I think my questions were answered by Rena, but I want to echo what my concerns are, that we do have, I don't want to even say potential. I want to say whatever word is greater than potential, for the school to be there, for green space to be there, which then tags into this concept of the small city that we're looking at, that with a school there and green space, there's also going to be the concern about traffic. So I'll just say it's a comment at this point, but it sounds like in terms of the school, we'll probably be looking at this again, but the EIR is going to be assessing that. But those are my concerns: the school, the green space, and the traffic thereof. So I think that's probably enough, because my questions were pretty much answered by other commissioners' questions. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Chair Guru.
Thanks, Chair. I wanted to set the record. I meant Calabasas Creek, not Guadalupe Parkway. And also wanted to see if a guideline could incorporate for the street network shared spaces or shared streets and flush streets as they're called. It's more in line of how the car is really just one mode of transportation and has equal mobility for pedestrians, except wheelchair access and other modes of transportation as well. So I just wanted to share a newer framework of reference for shared spaces and flush streets as one guideline for when we are writing the guidelines for this. That's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I think we can open it to public at this point. We have two hands up, Jeff Houston and then Tisha. But let's go with Jeff first. I saw that earlier.
Hi, this is Jeff. I just wanted to comment on the park in loose space. This is a very high density development, and I'm completely in favor of high density in development, but we need to provide these residents with park space. And if in lieu park space means that the park space will be built far away from this development, then that will not work. So if you could please explain to me how in lieu park space will assist these residents in having park space. That's my question. How will these residents have the park space that is necessary for our community? Thank you.
Okay, does staff want to comment on that?
Thank you, Chair. So unfortunately, with in lieu fee, they can't be directed to specific parks. They're utilized throughout the city with the intent that by improving regional parks or larger parks within the city, residents of this development could utilize other parks in the city as well as the ones within the plan area.
This is Rena. I just want to, thank you to the public comment. So as it relates to the in lieu fees, as Rebecca mentioned, they can't be directed to a specific neighborhood park. However, these in lieu fees go to building amenities that may not make sense on the particular park, for instance, that's being built out, like for instance, if we need soccer fields or baseball fields, but facilities that would make sense more regionally within the particular areas of like North Santa Clara, for instance, so that money could be funneled to get those kind of more unique amenities available for like the broader North Santa Clara area. That's maybe how an in lieu fee would be utilized that could be of benefit to these individual developments that are coming online. I do want to mention as well, because it's part of our open space story, is we've talked a lot about the green showing park land, but there is a lot of private open space that will be required, that will also be publicly accessible, that contributes to the total. And I don't know if we have those numbers, Rebecca, in terms of percentage of open space.
So total percentage is 22%. So that would equate to approximately 11 acres. 8 would be public parkland, and then approximately 4 would be privately maintained, publicly accessible.
Great, thank you. So that's, that's land the city won't have to maintain, but will seamlessly feel for the public like they can access it. Greenways, pocket nodes, other areas that our Parks Department would find acceptable for private use or private development, but publicly accessible.
Okay. Has any part of this been exploring elevated green spaces on tops of some of the residential developments that would count, or do those even count towards park space?
So that would count if it was publicly accessible. They would get credit for that, yes.
It wouldn't count towards the dedicated parkland space, but the private land that could be publicly accessible.
Okay, that's an interesting rephrasing. Okay, I'll have to get my head around that idea. If you put a park on top of a residence, that doesn't count for the residence.
No, I guess the green that we're showing on the land use plan is land that's going to be dedicated to the city and is going to be parkland.
I got it.
If you put it on top of a building, I don't think the city is, I'm sure there's a legal arrangement that could be worked out, but I don't think the city is ready for that yet, to accept a roof as a dedicated land. But we would acknowledge that that's private space, that if it was, and we would be interested in accessibility for the public, proper signage, how does the public access it at, all times so that it felt like a public space, not like a private rooftop garden for the residents that live there. That's when we would count that towards the space that we're saying is also part of the open space calculation for the plan.
Okay. So I can move on to Atisha, and then we'll go back to Jeff if he has more after that.
Hey, so I am a resident of North Santa Clara, live in the Rivermark area, and I definitely just kind of like questions and concerns. I'm sure you will not have answers, and I'm speaking kind of on behalf of like the overall North Santa Clara and being here, and I'm urban planner by trade too, so I understand some of these things clearly. First thing is like, does the city have a park master plan? Like really telling, like if you're collecting all this in lieu park fee from all these development happening around the city, how are we distributing that park fee and buying real estate to make new parks? Do we have a guiding document?
I believe we have a parks plan. I'm definitely not an expert on it, but this is money that the city has not yet seen. It's a change to the city's general plan, so it would certainly not be anticipated in that park master plan.
Okay, it will be good to have a revised park master plan, especially after COVID. And if that's something, community development department and the Parks and Rec work together, a lot of our neighboring cities do have like, Parks and Rec master plans. My second concern is like the sheer ignorance of transit in this plan is very, very concerning. Like 27,000 people, we are putting 27,000 people in this era, and we are not talking transit. And I'm not even sure why is VTA like part of the conversation, or how is the city really planning ahead for transit? And the following question to that is, what are the parking ratios? If you're not planning for transit, what are the parking ratios we are going with? And just kind of like it will be good to see all these plans, like the entire North Santa Clara, like as an introductory slide, like where are all these densities coming? Because I feel like Freedom Circle, Patrick Henry, and Kylie, the related, they all need to talk to each other pretty closely, especially in connectivity, pedestrian and bike networks as we are planning North Santa Clara. And so just kind of transit and mobility questions and concerns.
Okay.
So
I appreciate, before we jump into the answer, I appreciate that. I think that it's echoed by some of the commissioners as well. So if you could just perhaps add it to the future presentations as well, it'd be really helpful. Thank you. Go ahead.
To answer the question about engagement with VTA, we have been engaging with them closely. They are part of our technical advisory committee, of which we've had 2 meetings, and they have reviewed versions of the draft plan. In terms of the parking ratio, our intent is to be the same as what was approved in Tasman East, which from my recollection, and Ellie, maybe if you remember, or Rena, it's half a space for a unit under 500 square feet, and then 1 space for units larger than that. And then no specific requirement for retail.
Okay, I think we have 2. Is there any other answer to that? But we also have 2 other, well, 3 actually now, public requests for speaking. We'll make that 2. Okay, so let's move on to Michael Healy, and then we'll come back to Jeff again. Effectively getting back in line.
And just a reminder to all public speakers, you do have 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Michelle Healy from Santa Clara Unified School District. And I just wanted to point out a few items about this and how difficult it is to get land for a school. Since the state is able to designate actual parkland, they're guaranteed that that land will become a park in dedications from the developers. Whereas a school district, if the school isn't indicated on the map and in the plan on an actual location, we have to go and try to negotiate with every single developer in the plan. And the majority of them all of them, in fact, are already planning on building residential. So that makes it very difficult for us to find a piece of land that we can purchase and build a school on. So I wanted to point that out, and that's why we really would like to see a school site indicated on the plan, or even if there's any of the developers that are interested in selling their land to the school district, we would be more than happy to entertain that. We know that we need a school in this area, and without having one, a guarantee of having one, then there's no guarantee that we will be able to find the land within the specific plan to actually build one. And our elementary schools are somewhere around 110,000 square feet. So if we're only allowing 300,000 square feet for retail and community, that may not be enough retail to support the entire community. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. Is there a response from staff?
This plan is still underway. We still have time to work, and we want to work with the school district. I don't think that today we're going to solve this issue and find a site and designate it. I don't think that's anything we can at all commit to. And there are definitely some legal challenges with doing that, but we will continue to explore this and continue to talk to the property owners about any of their interest, as well as to the school district to help them further with this. So we're not going to be able to resolve this tonight, but we definitely understand the issue and want to be as helpful as possible.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to do Javier and then Jeff as the trailer. Okay, go ahead.
There you go. Thank you so much. So looking at this project, obviously, I think first, without taking the time to repeat everything, I absolutely agree with the previous callers regarding the issues of transportation, traffic mitigation, parking, and then also, as you know, Michelle just brought up the land for the schools. I am very concerned about the overall integration plan, or if you want to call it the overall area plan, as the earlier callers mentioned. We definitely need to have a unified view, or a, let's just say, a 2,000 or 20,000 foot view of how does this fit into all the other assets that we have in our city, and especially north side, and the implications of the traffic, the on entry and exit points, the public transportation, the open space, and including the retail. By looking at this right now, this is a small city by itself. I mean, literally a city by itself. And so I personally feel we're too far away from knowing what you guys have planned by looking at the current presentation. There's just too many holes in these subjects, and I really would like you to urge you to have a couple paseos in this space that can be retail centers, which are highly walkable with large sidewalks. Bike connectivity between multiple areas and multiple trails in our city, access to major public transportation, whether it's here or in the future. We need to design those in now, and we definitely need to think about TDM, or traffic demand management measures that can reduce the future impact on the surrounding neighbors, because Northside is already severely burdened by the amount of traffic and space that is available for parking. So by bringing in just this project itself and 27,000 people, we need to treat it as a separate city, and in practical terms, and how will it engage the surroundings and ensure that we have the plans for transportation, infrastructure, retail, and schools and services. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a comment back?
I would just say that we're not done with this plan. I mean, we're bringing this plan to you to really get the kind of comments we're getting tonight. And we are certainly thinking about transportation and connectivity, working closely with the VTA. The VTA wants density here to help with supporting their services, right? So we're trying to do a lot on this site. We recognize that, but we want to do it so that we're creating complete neighborhood with amenities and services, so that people can sort of self-contain in this neighborhood and have a good quality of life. So I would just say that today's presentation is not the plan. It's just to give you really a snapshot of where we are right now. And we have more work to do on this, and really appreciate all these comments to help direct that work.
Okay, thank you. Let's wrap up with Jeff.
Hello, this is Jeff. I appreciate that this plan is in its early stages, and that this purpose of this meeting is to gather comments to help facilitate this plan towards its final conclusion. And I would like to add that public park space is important, and in lieu fees need to ensure that they benefit the residents of this community and not the residents of outlying communities, and that a school site should be defined well before this community is built out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Okay, Commissioner Jane, and then we'll close public hearing.
Well, I was actually going to propose that I do have some more comments, but I was proposing that we close public hearing.
Okay, motion?
Motion to close, yeah.
I'll second it. At least I can get us at least one motion in today.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Jane?
Yes.
Chair Salem?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Biagini?
Yes.
Commissioner Cherukuru?
Yes.
Commissioner Hero?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's unanimous. We're moving we're moving on from public hearing. Commissioner Jane, you had your hand up first, and then I'll be up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that I firmly believe that this many people needs a school, and I think most people recognize that. But more importantly, we really don't have land, and I would like to see a scenario where the parkland is shared with a school that's there, because the kids need to be able to run around and do their sports. But then on the weekends and evenings, the school is not using that land. And then the community should be able to use this. So this should be some sort of partnership with the school to dual purpose that parkland and then build the school next to it. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to follow up. I think I appreciate staff. This is great to see this early, and I think everybody's concern is we're so used to seeing things further along in the development process, so we're always looking for the things that may be missing that seem pretty obvious. So it's great that you have it all noted, that you're going to look at it, and the school will be considered, the traffic will be considered, the green space will be considered. It's great that that's going to be on the agenda. I look forward to the next iteration. So I think, is there any public outreach on this that people have been contacted or given an opportunity to see it this early outside of our eyes?
Yes, Chair, we have had one community workshop thus far. This was pre-COVID, and then we're planning for a second one in January of next year. Obviously, we'll have to do it by a different method. We're still thinking about how to execute that.
Well, that's good. That's great. So the other hand up is Commissioner Kesey.
Thank you. So a long time ago, I remember hearing in that the Kylie project may have a school as well. So is that still like something that could happen? Because if so, then I mean, shouldn't this be coordinated between the two adjacent projects?
Yes, Kylie is studying a school as part of their environmental analysis. However, since that development is not a guarantee, essentially, we're looking at including it as part of this environmental analysis as well in the event that that doesn't work out.
So is the school going to be big enough to at least accommodate the two projects? Because Kylie's going to be huge too, right?
As I said, they're currently redoing their plans, so it's unclear at this point how dense or tall or how many residents it would include. At this point, we do anticipate that one school would be sufficient for both projects, but we do need a new analysis from the school district as far as the number of students and the grade levels that would need to be supported here.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other commissioner comments that we want to make? Since public hearing's closed, I don't think there's any action that we're intended to take on this, correct? Other than note and file?
Correct.
All right. So I assume that note and file is automatic and there doesn't need to be a vote.
No vote is necessary.
Good. That's awesome. I'm really happy to see this development going into the right places. I'm really genuinely concerned at the number of people being squeezed into that amount of space, but I think with the development proceeding, we'll see how it turns out. I don't think there's anything else in public hearing items. So we're actually apparently at a point where we can move on to reports of commission and board liaison and committee. Correct? I assume. Okay.
We have Development Review Officer Gloria Shar participating remotely. I'm going to ping her to see if she's ready to give some updates.
Awesome, thank you.
Or we can first move on to, any announcements or other items or travel and commission training. I guess that's on our end. I don't know if we have that. I don't think we have the budget or training information because it was provided at the last meeting.
Okay. Well, I see Commissioner Jane's hand up. Is it pertinent to this topic?
Well, it's just an announcement.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of a personal announcement. There's a TV show called Nova. It's a science show. It airs at 9 p.m. this evening. And my research project will be on there. And my friends on the, I haven't seen it. So I'll see it at 9, but my friends on the East Coast say I have a speaking role. So I didn't know that, but I do.
Exciting.
A PBS star. That's great. I'll actually look for that. Travel and training reports, requests for training. And we'll come back for the other announcements, I assume, once the other person's available.
Chair Salem, I'm available whenever there's
Okay,
a
good.
break in the discussion.
Go for it. This is a good time.
Okay. So there's no budget report at this meeting because we just had it at the last meeting, and we provide that once a month to you. And there was only one council meeting since your last meeting, and that occurred actually last night. So I'll just mention the couple of items that pertain to the Planning Commission. And one is that the council did adopt the resolution approving the 2021 Planning Commission calendar of meetings, and again, recognizing the 6 p.m. time frame. And then under public hearing items, there was actually a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an amended and restated affordable housing agreement with Zane Partners, and that is for construction of 150 affordable housing units located at 2302 Calle del Mundo, and approving a related budget amendment. So that's in the Tasman East area, and so that project essentially is something that goes through the architectural committee, or in this case, now it's transferred to the development review hearing, but that's been an approved project. So that agreement has been in effect, and the city will be contributing funds as well as providing that agreement so the developer can actually seek federal and state funding for that project. And it is 100% affordable, the entire project. And that's all I have in terms of reporting from City Council.
That's awesome. Actually, that jumped us ahead. We were still back on travel and training, but that takes care of city council actions and agenda items and budget. So we're kind of, is there any other training and requests for training from anyone? Okay, good. So we've jumped through. We've done planning, upcoming agenda items, city actions. So I'll entertain.
Chair Salim, I just wanted to give a heads up to the commission that I do think that the related Santa Clara comprehensive sign program for that would be applicable on DAPS 1 and 2, that would be coming to the next Planning Commission meeting on November 18th.
Oh, that's great. Commissioner Jane, did you have anything to add? Your hands up still?
No, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Snuck it in. Good. So I have a motion and a second to adjourn.
All in favor?
All in favor. Yeah, let's go straight to it. All in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Just for the
Thank you,
record,
staff. Thank you.
just
Commissioner.
for the record, that was the fastest second on history.
Yeah.
Why, thank you.